Welcome back, everyone, to We Need to Talk Now, presented by AT&T. I'm Ashley Nicole Moss, and of course, I got my girl, Alicia J, with me. Thank you so much for rocking with us for another week. And before we dive into everything that has transpired over this weekend, this past week, we have to remind you to like, share, subscribe, share with a friend, share with a friend's friend. The QR code on the screen makes it so easy for you to do that.
So easy. And of course, you can listen to us on any podcast platform, Spotify, Apple, all of that right there. We're ready to talk to you now.
All right. So speaking of talk, let's talk about it. We always talk about the weekend. The world of sports is always evolving, always changing. There's never a dull moment, even in the moments that are supposed to be dull. So here we are. Let's go ahead and break this down. First and foremost, we did it, Joe. Reggie Bush got his Heisman back.
Yes.
Listen, girl, I feel like I tweet this out maybe like a couple times a month. Give Reggie his Heisman back. It finally happened.
Yes.
20 years in the making. We
were
long overdue. We were watching the press conference here at CBS when it happened last week. And his family was there, his wife, his children. They did it at USC, you know, the stadium he used to break records at. So it's just very, very full circle moment. So happy for Reggie.
Very happy.
And speaking of USC, transfer portal news was taking over the timeline over the weekend. And if USC wasn't already on your radar, they're about to be on your radar now.
A whole problem.
Listen, the sky is the limit. The ceiling is high for USC, and they have shown no signs of slowing down. But speaking of slowing down, somebody took us all by surprise. I'm watching my Knicks. They're in a very tumultuous battle with the 76ers for the playoffs, if you don't know. And you know how serious I take my Knicks.
I have to check on her.
Yeah, you have to check on me because it gets a little rocky. Yes. And I'm minding my business, already stressed out. And probably top of the second quarter, I see a notification come across my timeline. And at first, I kind of was like, I don't know, this account is probably not real. And then it started to multiply. Candace Parker announced her retirement.
Man.
Surprise attack on a Sunday.
Man, I was not ready. So many people were not. I don't think anybody was ready for that.
On the Lord's Day, Candace, come on now. But we weren't the only ones taken by surprise. Breonna Stewart minding her business at Liberty training camp, the first day at that. And she gets the news, and she's basically just like the rest of us. Listen to this.
Yes, she was.
Not to break some news to you just now, Candace Parker just announced she's retiring from the WNBA.
What?
Yeah.
What? Wait right now?
Just
Wait, she's not playing anymore?
Like 3 minutes ago, just posted about it.
What?
So.
Wow. Like effective immediately? Wow.
The effective immediately was hilarious to me.
Man.
Like, wait, you mean like right now? Like,
right. And that what?
We don't have time to like kind of warm up to this. That was really funny.
Yeah.
I mean, let's run through some of her accolades real quick because there's a lot. We don't have time for all of them, so I'm going to run through just some of them. The first and only WNBA player to win Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season. One of 3 players in basketball history, not WNBA history, basketball history, to win Rookie of the Year and MVP in the same season. Her 34 points are still the most points ever scored by a WNBA player in their rookie debut. 3-time champion, 2-time WNBA MVP, 2-time gold medalist, 7-time All-Star, 7-time All-NBA first team, 2022 DPOY, 2016 Finals MVP, 2013 All-Star MVP, 2008 Rookie of the Year, and WNBA 25 team. I mean, and there's more.
I mean, legendary.
Right.
Absolute legend. Absolute legend. I know for me, I'm in shock because obviously we want her on the court. I want to see Candace out there. But one thing she's always said, and she said this when she announced it, is that she never wants to cheat the game. Mm-hmm. And with all of her injuries, you know, you just read off so many things, and she accomplished that with literally 10 surgeries within her career, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So for her to go out like this, even though we were all in shock, but she's doing it, you know, she said her mind caught up with her heart and her body. She knows that it's time. And I mean, for you to pick the time when you retire, that's good for her. Like, I'm really happy for her. And one thing, you know, obviously we're all sad. I'm sad. I grew up watching her. She inspired me in every way possible and still does. But one thing I am excited about She said she about to be about that business. Okay?
I know that's right. And
She
she's
go-
already in her broadcasting bag and she's
Already
great at
there.
it. I mean, for me, the reason I became interested in the WNBA was because of Candace Parker.
Mhm.
You know, and also our combined love for Kobe Bryant was something that I really kind of found a connection with her outside of just watching her in amazement and what she did on the court. It was, you know, the profound respect she had for Kobe, and Kobe's my favorite basketball player of all time. I tell that story all the time. And reading her caption on Instagram when she announced her retirement was very much reminiscent of what Kobe said when he retired. And it's like, I never wanted to cheat the game. And it's interesting because in my career, when I've interviewed so many athletes, they'll say, as long as their mind is still in it, they'll try to force their body to the point of no return, you know, because of how much they love it. But then it comes to a point where your mind and your body are on the same page, and your mind basically says, like, we can't do it. Like,
Yeah.
I physically can't do it. And it's a hard thing to like accept, but it just shows the mind and the will of an athlete, especially the highest competitor that there is in terms of, you know, an athlete who's performed at the highest level possible and has, you know, just created such a huge legacy for themselves. It's hard to kind of like give into your mind and say, like, we have to quit, we have to walk away, because it's just not in their DNA, you know?
Absolutely. And it's not something people talk about enough. I
Yeah.
think that transition from being an athlete to the next venture in your life. But what I will say is, as a competitor at that level, her not cheating the game, you know that she's done, because you know when you read those things, she has tried everything.
Mhm.
She has done everything that she came to do.
Mhm.
And now she is ready to literally own NBA teams, own WNBA teams. She
Mhm.
said she's going to be in producing, and she's going to advance the games in ways that she couldn't on the court. And she's going to extend that into off the court. So I'm really, really excited to see
I mean,
that.
she's definitely left the game better than she found it.
She's
And I think
changed
that
it.
was the sentiment a lot of people shared when the news was shared with them that she was announcing her retirement. A lot of people said, look, she left it way better than she found it, and it's in a much better place because of her. But also, I think she did a really good job at kind of setting herself up for that next chapter while she was still playing, so that the transition isn't as difficult. I can't tell you how many athletes I've interviewed over my career, and they say all the time, when you don't you're not proactive in thinking about what's next after this is over, waking up that next day and having nothing to do because you're not going to practice, you're not going to the gym, you're not going to watch film. Like, it's literally your first day of like, okay, now what, is just the hardest thing to like go through, because you're trying to figure out basically who you are from zero, because who you are has been so wrapped up in this particular sport that now you're trying to figure out who you are all over again. And she did a really good job at making that transition just a little bit easier. Obviously, it's going to be different, like not going to training camp, not having a game, you know, not speaking to the media after the game, but still having your foot in that world because you kind of prepared for it, has to make it just a little bit easier.
Yeah,
you know?
not only did she set herself up rather that way, she also, you know, has her beautiful family that she can spend time with. That is just as important to her as this business part is. But now she's going to have more time to spend with them, even though in her statement she said, sorry, babe, like I'm going to be going just as hard. So she definitely is going to be doing that. But that work-life balance is going to be a beautiful thing to see. So, you know, thank you.
Thank
Candace.
you, Candace.
Now,
I didn't get the
you didn't
effect.
get the heart.
I didn't get the effect. I don't think it works.
Listen, and I'm not even going to try because y'all saw what I did. It wasn't ready. Another thing that happened this past week and weekend was the NFL draft. And it had
Detroit, shout out to the Motor City.
Okay.
They had a legendary, a historic attendance, over 700,000 people.
Yeah, 775,000 people,
Insane.
Which is insane.
Yeah, insane.
And those people got to see a pick that a lot of people were talking about, and that was number 8 by the Falcons, Michael Penix Jr. There's a lot of talk in and around that. People were actually, just like they were with Candace, they were in shock that the Falcons picked that. And actually, CBS Sports' Pete Prisco, he graded the move a B-. And then Rick Spielman gave it a D.
Yeah.
So obviously not great ratings or great grades.
It's confusing.
It is definitely confusing.
Yeah.
But what I will say is this. the biggest confusion was they just signed Kirk Cousins to a $180 million deal. 100 of that is guaranteed.
$100 million.
$100 million.
Say that one more time. $100 million. Yeah.
$100 million. So you pick a quarterback, or you sign a quarterback,
Mhm.
right, in Kirk Cousins, and then you pick a quarterback at number 8. So people are like, what are we doing here? For me, because the Falcons have really obviously struggled at that quarterback position.
Fair.
They have definitely struggled. Kirk is kind of, I mean, we know that he's obviously a good quarterback, but he's coming off of an Achilles tear. I mean, which is huge. That's a big comeback to have.
He's not a spring chicken.
Not a spring chicken. He also hasn't had that many like good playoff game appearances, right? So to me, he's, even though you're paying him all this money, he's not like a super lock to me. So when I look at this, I look at it as almost an insurance policy.
Okay.
That you do have a quarterback that you know that is good, that is ready to go if Kirk for some reason doesn't play off. We don't know what's happening with his injury. And so that very important position for that team that has not been filled for so long, you know that you have something there to lead the team into better days. That is how I feel about it. Not so many people feel that way, but
I'm on the side of not so many people feel that way.
Okay.
I'll tell you what.
How you feel, Ashley?
I feel like, I hear what you're saying, insurance policy. I agree with that. I think that an insurance policy should always be taken, especially when you have a quarterback of a particular age, who's had a particular injury, which a lot of times can change the way you play the game, regardless of what sport you play, but specifically a quarterback. You know, your legs are a big part of your ability to throw the football. But you don't spend a first-round draft pick on an insurance policy when you have $180 million or $100 million sitting in your locker room right now, guaranteed. My thing is this. I completely agree they should have gone after a younger quarterback to go ahead and sit on the bench, learn from Kirk Cousins in the locker room. And maybe that quarterback would have been the quarterback that kind of takes the franchise over. Or the quarterback could have been what I like to call like a gap quarterback. It's the quarterback that's just good enough, but not your franchise guy until like you find your franchise guy. But what they did for me is they put the Falcons in a really tough situation. They put Kirk Cousins in a really tough situation because you didn't make the team better for him. You didn't go ahead and use that pick on something that would make the team better as a whole, make that offense better as a whole. All you did was take a piece in the draft that you're not going to utilize in the next season, 2 seasons, maybe even 3 seasons, because Kirk Cousins is there for X amount of years. I just feel like it's a Falcon thing to do. I'm not surprised by it. Atlanta does what Atlanta does when it comes to their sports teams. They don't always make the best decisions, and we can just add this to the list. It was very confusing to me. Makes no sense.
But I feel like we're both saying the same things.
Yeah.
It's the signing of Kirk that makes no sense.
We could have that argument another time too. I mean, listen, Kirk Cousins has had a decent amount of success in the playoffs. He's had a decent amount of success in the regular season. Is he a Super Bowl winning quarterback? I don't think so. I was actually perplexed why the Falcons went after him in the first place. But you know what? First of all, shout out to Kirk Cousins' agent. That's the real MVP of this conversation. Because he or she has figured out a way to get a relatively mediocre quarterback. I'm not saying he's terrible. I'm not saying he's bad. He's mediocre. He's like middle of the road. Not 1, but 2 gigantic contracts.
That money.
That is what we should actually be talking about. Forget Michael, forget Kirk, forget the Falcons. Who is Kirk Cousins' agent?
Right.
That's what I want to know.
Yeah.
We need to talk now, like for real. Because what they've been able to do for this man is insane.
Yeah, they need to negotiate the contract for me next. Like
$100
I'm trying to get that money. Okay?
$100 million without a Super Bowl is insane. Insane. There are quarterbacks who don't see a fraction of that money, or backup quarterbacks, or quarterbacks of Kirk Cousins' age who don't see it. Listen, real MVP. That's all I'm gonna say. So Kirk, I'm not hating Kirk. Get paid.
I mean, he is.
Get paid, Kirk. Well, you know what? If I'm Kirk Cousins, at the end of the day, I don't even care if they signed a quarterback. I got $100 million guaranteed coming my way. Do what you want to do, Atlanta. Yeah. I don't give a damn.
No, he certainly does not.
I know I wouldn't. So listen, one thing we can agree on and applaud is the work of the WBB team at Brandeis and how they stood up for themselves. I mean, Alicia, this story is incredible.
It is absolutely incredible. And it's also enraging in a lot of ways because they shouldn't have had to stand up for themselves. Carol Simon has been coaching the team for 37 seasons. And yeah, it is a really long time. And in 2023, they found that she did violate the school's rules and had racist comments and actions that she directed towards the players. She was actually put on administrative leave for an entire year. And then they reinstated her in March to come back. And all of the players on the team said, absolutely not. And they said that they would not come back to play if she was the coach. Now, since that has happened, she has retired, which we all know what that is.
Retired, for people who don't know, is just a nice way of saying you retired before you could be fired. So
exactly.
Kind of read between the lines for people who don't know what that means.
Yeah, and it's also important to know that two of her superiors, like two of the people who were above her, used to play for her as well. So there's that layer. And the players said that that never would have happened if they didn't stand up for themselves. And my thing is, it should never get to that point. If you know that somebody has done something like that, racist comments and actions towards players, you don't put them on administrative leave. You fire them immediately. There is no room for that in sports, period, nor women's sports anywhere. We don't need that. No, you should protect the players at all costs. If you find that there was an actual investigation where they found that, you don't let somebody sit out for a year and then sneak them back in and think that everything is going to be good.
And I think that's the key here, right? Because I think that administrative leave, obviously, when you are in the middle of an investigation until you are found guilty or innocent, depending on what the outcome is, that's the appropriate, response. You don't fire somebody right away because there's an allegation, because you have to do your due diligence. But to your point, once that investigation is completed, and you see that this person either did or didn't do what they're being accused of, it's kind of black and white at that point. It's very cut and dry. So to your point, it is very disheartening that an investigation, you would go through the process, the due process of, every step in the book and do it by the book and come to the conclusion that X did Y and Z is the punishment and say, you know what, let's just put her on pause. No, there's no pause.
No.
That's it. It's cut and dry. Yeah.
As a coach, there are things that you just cannot do. And obviously this is one of them. And we've seen in programs across all sports that people know that things are going on. They let things slide because this person is either winning or maybe she just isn't been there for 37 years or whatever the case may be. And so they let things slide and let things happen to these players that is detrimental to them in life for life. We're not even talking about what's happening on the court. We're talking about mental and physical abuse. We don't need that in sport. We need to protect the players who are out there playing every night for these schools or whatever they're playing for.
And it also shouldn't be up to the players to, I feel like, kind of vouch for themselves. I feel like there are systems in place at these schools, or at least there should be, at these schools within these programs that are supposed to look out for the betterment and for the good of the player and players. And I think that it got to the point where it's very again, I'm using the word disheartening, that the team had to come together and say, no, we're not going to play for her because this is what she did. And this is what you guys have investigated to show that she did. So it's just very disheartening that the players had to take that extra step to go ahead and protect themselves from someone who should not be coaching them, instead of having a system or systems in place that do it for them. I think that's kind of a part. I think that's the biggest part for me. Because I think at the end of the day, sometimes a lot of these bigger programs or even smaller programs, they look out for each other and they don't really look out for the young women or the young men wearing these jerseys and kind of bringing in the revenue and bringing in the eyes, which is very unfortunate. But I think that when there comes to certain situations, you kind of hope that certain things trump financial gain or, loyalty, and you look out for the betterment of the young minds that you're kind of crafting and developing. And to me, the biggest part of this is like, that didn't happen. I think that's like the hardest pill to swallow, you know?
It's very hard. And also there's so many amazing coaches out there
Yeah.
that need the opportunity to coach and should coach women like this. And we're letting somebody who doesn't deserve to be there continue to coach. And really, you know, it's a really bad thing for the rest of their lives that they've had to go through this and had to stand up for themselves time and time again. Believe the players. You did a whole investigation. Do what's right and let the coach go. And also don't let her retire.
Yeah, that's enough, because then you get your pension, you get your benefits. When you retire and you're not fired, you do reap all of your benefits, you know, depending on how long you've been there. There are different benefits, different tiers and stuff like that. So basically, it's like a slap on the wrist at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's not really like a full blown. Listen, I'm telling you.
No, it's frustrating. And that's across the board, not just in this case, but it happens in sports all of the time, and it needs to stop.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely, again, have to shout out the players for speaking up.
Absolutely.
And, you know, going through the due diligence of, you know, using their voice in a way that, you know, benefits them, and not only benefits them, but I think sets a precedent for teams that will follow them. It's a very brave thing to do. And it's hard because you have to get sometimes, you know, like you ever do jury duty?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so I've been in jury duty too.
Yes.
And listen, sometimes there's always that one person in jury duty who's like, oh, I don't know, I don't think they did it, or I don't know. It's like, can you just pick a side? Like, you got to get everyone on the same page. For them to be able to do that, you know, as young as they are, is a testament to just, you know, I feel like the changing of the times that we are. You know, these young men and women are not afraid to use their voices to power change. And I think that's very, very admirable.
Well, Ashley, I'm really excited that the players got the outcome that they deserve.
Yeah, me too.
That they deserve. And another thing I'm excited about is our favorite segment that we have every week, Connecting Changes Everything, presented by AT&T. And this week, I'm super excited about this because it's something that made me smile really big. Do you know who the Savannah Bananas are?
I do. I actually watched a documentary on them years ago. They're the baseball team. They do the crazy stunts at like halftime or seventh inning. I want to get tickets so bad.
I do too. And they're literally sold out. Like every time I go to get one, whenever they're like close to where I live, you can't get a ticket. So listen, Savannah Bananas, we're trying to go. We're trying to come to a game. And I personally am trying to go to one where Jocelyn is. She is obviously Oklahoma legend, softball legend.
Yeah.
She signed a 1-month contract with them. And I would love, she's the first woman to ever play for the Savannah Bananas. So she's the first woman to ever play banana ball. And I'm really excited to watch. I think it's going to be fun.
Is it called banana ball? Is that what it's?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Banana
First
ball.
of all, I didn't realize that it was so difficult to get tickets to this.
It is.
Like, I remember watching it, full disclosure, I remember watching it, this documentary, I want to say 2 years ago. I don't know if it was like 2020 or like, it was like some sort of like, it wasn't a full-blown documentary. It was like a special, whatever the case may be. And I was like, there's no way people are like going to see this. And then lo and behold, this is how technology works, like listening to me. Then they start popping up on my timeline on Twitter a lot. And I'm like, that's weird. Their things are packed. Their games are packed. People are lined up to go to these. The stands are filled. Mind you, I grew up in New York, so I grew up going to baseball games. Obviously, the Yankees are the Yankees. So like, 27 of them things. We don't have to, worry about not having attendance. But I've been to some baseball games and I'm just like, there's like nobody here. That's not the issue there. No. It's packed.
People are just waiting to go inside and see that. And I know
crazy.
It is crazy, but it's so much fun, family oriented. Pretty much anybody can go there and have fun though. Like I would go there with my friends. Like I can just, see ourselves having a great time there. And then,
my dad's a sports snob and he was like looking at it like, and then like he kind of was like, oh no, looks kind of cool.
No, it is cool. And I think people are kind of confused as to what it is, like you just said. And a lot of people say that it's the Globetrotters of baseball, Harlem Globetrotters of baseball, which I kind of see. And that's always a fun time. Like I've always enjoyed going to those games. So, but I'm really excited to see her, like what she's going to bring to the game.
And I think that people
all the home runs she's going to hit.
Like these are true athletes. Like Jocelyn is a true athlete.
Without a doubt.
Giving her flowers, giving her accolades. Like just because you play a little bit of a looser, sillier, more fun version of baseball does not mean that the athleticism that's required to do so is not there. So do not be mistaken.
Not at all.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to see it all.
I love that.
I am going
Do
to
they
see it
have in
all.
Oakland?
They go on tours.
Oh, they go on tour.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So
they're like home teams.
No, I mean, they definitely are at in Savannah,
Okay.
They're at home a
Got
lot,
it.
but they also do travel so people can see it outside of that.
I love that. Shout out to you, Jocelyn.
Yeah. Can't wait to watch.
All right, listen. So before we wrap, I want to talk about something that's on the horizon.
What
All
would
right.
that be?
Listen, WNBA rosters, ladies and gentlemen. I mentioned that training camp started yesterday.
Yep.
That is where Breanna Stewart got the news that Candace Parker was retiring, and she was taken aback like us all. But training camp is here, and we get to see Caitlin Clark in training camp, Angel Reese, and all of the new draftees, Cameron Brink. But the unfortunate reality of the situation is that not everybody will make a roster.
Nope.
Just because they are present at training camp does not mean that we will see them suit up for the first day of the season. So, I mean, Alicia, especially in the 2024 draft class, there are going to be a lot of cuts, like I said. And in 2023, only 15 draftees made opening day rosters, which is just a very frightening number and a frightening realization for a lot of these young women who have worked so hard to just get to this point.
Well, and this is what people were talking about coming up to this is like when you come into the league, there is kind of a rude awakening because you see that 144 of the best players in the world are playing on these WNBA teams, and there's only that many spots. And so that realization, when you come in there, you got to earn it. You have to earn it. And Angel Reese actually spoke to this, and I think we should watch what she has to say.
Nobody's guaranteed. I don't want to go into the league thinking that I'm automatically on the team because I'm not. Anybody can get cut any given day, and that we have amazing vets on our team, and I know they're going to push me every day to get me better every day. So there's no given spot, and I don't take this moment for granted and just being able to have it given to me. Like, I need to go out there and earn my spot, and that's what I'm about.
Yeah, nobody is going to give it to you. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, listen, we've been hearing kind of the vets of the league talk about this for a very long time, specifically, in regards to this draft class. And they say all the time that you can be an excellent player, the best maybe like in your draft class, and still not make a roster. Like, it's just a very this is the very real reality of the situation, that there's only so many spots and that those spots are not guaranteed. And because the league is still growing and it's not as big as, say, the NBA, where there's a lot more, it's 400 plus guys in that league. If you are not the best of the best, and sometimes even that's not enough to make a roster, it's very, very unfortunate, which is why expansion is going to be such a huge thing, because it opens up more roster spots. And expansion, just continued expansion, is going to make this so that this is not, it still will be a problem, just not as prevalent as it is right now.
Yeah. And I think it's important for anyone that does get cut to realize, like, that doesn't mean you're not a good player.
It's important.
It does not mean that you're not a good player. It just means that you're literally playing in a league where 144 of the best women in the world are playing. And, you're just going to have to come back next year or whatever the case may be, and go overseas and play. I mean, that's the reality of being a woman playing basketball in the US. So, but a lot of people would take that to heart and think that they're just not good. And that doesn't mean that. It just means that there are 144 women who are amazing that are before you.
Yeah.
So,
well, we wish all of the young women in training camp, fighting for their roster spots, the best of luck. We are with you. We are thinking of you, and we, sending you positivity. And if it doesn't happen this year, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen ever. And that does it for us on this episode of We Need to Talk.
Yes.
Now, that was quick.
It was quick. And I'm so glad that we were in the studio.
I know it's a little bit of change from being in the boxes, talking to each other. Yeah, but listen, guys, make sure you follow and subscribe. All the information is down there. Instagram, X, TikTok, and then our individual socials as well. And like we say all the time, share with a friend who shares with a friend who shares with a friend, and just go down the ranks.
All of them, everybody.
Until next time, I'm Ashley. This is Alicia, and we will see you next week. Bye.
See you next week.